storms into the round of 16, taking down Magdalene in straight sets. 6-3, 7-6. An absolutely commanding performance by Alexandra Eala. Just dominant. Congrats, you're back in the 4th round here in Miami. And you earned it against a real fighter in Magdalene. We all know how tough she is. Beyond this incredible crowd, what got you across the finish line? Patience. That was the key to everything I did today. You said it. Magda is a warrior, and every match against her has been a brutal fight. So credit to her for a great game, and yeah, I loved the battle. Watching you play is electric. You seem totally fearless taking the ball so early, redirecting with such power. Was that always your game, or did a coach mold you into that style? I'd like to think I've always aimed to be aggressive. Maybe it's just clicked in the last year or so, but no, it's definitely a core part of my game. Of course, I have a phenomenal team that's helped me sharpen everything and really pushed me to the next level. But yeah, I think playing aggressively is just who I am. Okay, a year ago, you were ranked 140. You came into Miami this year at 29. What's the single biggest difference in you as both a person and an athlete standing here right now? I think I've matured immensely in the past year. I've been thrown into so many high-pressure moments onto huge stages, which I'm so grateful for and wouldn't trade for anything. But honestly, being back in this 4th round feels just like it did last year. I'm thrilled, I'm excited, and it's a true privilege to be here in Miami again. Well, we love having you. Let's hear it one more time for Alexa. Look, in tennis, some matches are just about the box score. Some are just about the numbers next to a name, the rankings, the seedings, the stats that pop on a screen. And then, there are matches like this. Matches where numbers are meaningless, where it comes down to something deeper, something visceral, something that defines who these competitors are. Alexandra Eala versus Karolína Muchová is not just another round of 16 match under the Miami lights. This isn't just a spot in the bracket. This is a psychological thriller. It's a violent chess match played at 100 miles per hour. This is the ultimate test of structure versus disruption. It's a war to see if a relentless mechanical rhythm can survive being dragged into absolute chaos. But more than anything, this is the final exam. Is Alexandra Eala's meteoric rise the real deal? Or is she about to slam into a wall of complexity she is simply not ready for? On paper, this matchup looks almost too simple. It's a textbook contrast of styles. In one corner, you have Eala. She is the prototype of the modern power baseliner, a player built on the perfection of repetition and kinetic force. She steps on court to establish a pattern, to dictate the tempo, to lull you into a hypnotic bruising rhythm. She lives and dies by that devastating lefty forehand, seeking out those deep, punishing cross-court battles where she can just plant her feet and unleash hell. She wants to make your legs scream. She wants to steal your breath. She wants to grind her opponents into dust over 3 brutal hours. Her entire game is an exercise in control. It's a game of geometry, of calculated margins of suffocating pressure that builds and builds until you simply break. And in the other corner, you have Karolína Muchová. And Muchová is in every way the complete antithesis of that. If Eala is a metronome, Muchová is the hammer that shatters it. Muchová refuses to give you rhythm. In fact, her sole purpose on a tennis court is to steal yours away. She is a saboteur, an artist of discomfort. She won't trade haymakers with you. She changes the height of every ball. She changes the spin, the pace, the direction, the depth. And she'll do it multiple times inside a single rally. She'll hit a heavy topspin forehand, then a biting slice that dies at the net, then a looping moonball, just to shatter your timing. And that is exactly what makes this a nightmare matchup for Alexandra Eala. Now, if you look at Eala's run through this tournament, it's been nothing less than spectacular. It's been impressive, yes, but more importantly, it's been a window into her mental fortitude. She survived an absolute war, a 3-hour slugfest against Laura Siegemund. And if you know Siegemund, she thrives in the mud. She lives for the weird angles and awkward broken patterns that make you forget how to play. Eala weathered that storm. Then she faced Magdalene, a brilliant counterpuncher who had just knocked off the world #1. And Eala didn't just beat Lynette, she dismantled her. She controlled the entire narrative. There was a moment down 3-5 in the second with her back to the wall. The momentum had completely flipped. That's the breaking point where most young players panic. That's when they force shots, rush points, and try to be a hero. But Eala showed something else entirely. She showed terrifying patience. She showed poise. She showed elite decision-making under unimaginable pressure. She stayed inside her bubble, trusted her heavy ground strokes, and methodically clawed her way back to dominate the tiebreak. But here is the brutal reality check for today. Karolína Muchová is not Laura Siegemund, and she is definitely not Magdalena. Karolína Muchová is a far more advanced, far more lethal version of that same exact problem. She doesn't just disrupt you to cause chaos. She disrupts with deadly surgical intent. When Muchová hits that slice, it isn't a defensive shot. It is a trap. It is a calculated strategic weapon. She uses that slice to keep the ball impossibly low, forcing you to bend your knees until they burn, making you scoop the ball up from below your strike zone. And she knows exactly what's coming next. She knows your reply will be weak, that it will be short. And the millisecond you leave that ball hanging, Muchová is already moving off the baseline to attack. And she's closing in, gliding, cutting the court, owning the net. Make no mistake, once Karolína Muchová gets to the net, she's one of the most lethal finishers the women's tour has ever seen. Her hands are pure silk. Drop volleys, deep punches, swinging drives. So this match isn't just about Alexandra Eala's patience anymore. That won't cut it. This is about Eala's mental fortitude. Can she handle a match where the rhythm is pure chaos? Can her mind endure a game that never offers the same shot twice? And then there's the environment. You have to factor in the Miami conditions because the weather and the court have become a huge unseen third player here. This is where the strategy becomes truly fascinating. On paper, Miami's conditions should be a massive advantage for Alexandra Eala. The air is heavy, the humidity is crushing. The courts are noticeably slower than a standard hard court. The balls get heavy fluff up and just hang in the air. What's the takeaway? Rallies get longer by default. It's incredibly hard to just step in and rip a clean winner through the court. You can't just power your way through someone in Miami. You have to fight for every single inch. And typically, that favors the grinder. It favors the player with bigger lungs, stronger legs, the one willing to rally for 20, 30, 40 shots, just waiting for the opponent to break. That's Eala's world. That's how she earns her keep. But tennis is a game of contradictions. And here's the twist. Those same heavy, slow, suffocating conditions also make Karolína Muchová's disruptive style infinitely more brutal to face. Because when the ball's heavy and the air is thick, Muchová's slice doesn't pop up. It stays glued to the court. It just skids away. When she varies the spin, the heavy ball bites and jumps violently off the surface. For the player on the other side, it means you never get a clean hit. You're constantly making tiny adjustments with your feet, your grip, your swing. And against Muchová, if you're off by a single degree, if your footwork gets lazy for an instant, you're walking right into her trap. You're handing her the exact short ball she needs to move in. So Miami's conditions are a true double-edged sword. There is no clear-cut advantage here. Instead, these conditions amplify the greatest strengths of both competitors. They make Eala's heavy topspin even heavier and Muchová's wicked slice even lower. This dynamic is about to create a spectacular battle. Let's dive into the microscopic tactics because every single point, every game in this match comes down to one thing. It will all circle back to one fundamental pattern: Eala's looping lefty forehand-driven crosscourt right into Muchová's backhand. That single diagonal shot is the bedrock of Alexandra Eala's entire career. It's her bread and butter. It's how she dictates the game. She uses that punishing topspin to push her opponent wider and wider, yanking them way off the court. That creates a massive opening. Then she steps in and ends the point with either a blistering backhand down the line or an inside-out forehand into open space. It's a beautiful, brutal, and effective pattern. Most players on tour simply can't handle it. They try to overpower it, and they always fall apart. But Karolína Muchová isn't most players. She won't just stand back and trade blows with that lefty forehand. She's far too clever for that. Instead of fighting Eala's topspin, Muchová will absorb it. She'll slice the backhand. She's going to cut the legs out from under the rally. She'll neutralize all that high bouncing pace and send back a low skidding ball right at Eala's feet. And this is the razor's edge of the whole contest. The second a Muchová slice floats just a bit too high or lacks enough bite, Eala will pounce, take it on the rise, and absolutely crush it. The point will be over. But if Muchová's execution is perfect, if that slice stays low and skids fast, the entire dynamic flips on its head. Suddenly, the attacker becomes the one under siege. Eala, who wants the ball at shoulder height, is forced to get low, dig the ball out, and generate pace from a defensive crouch. Her margin for error shrinks. She can no longer hit with that heavy driving topspin. And when Aya is forced to hit up, she's exposed. But the strategic maze goes deeper still. There's another critical weakness in Alexandra Eala's game. We have to talk about her second serve. Look at the data, watch the film, and you'll see this is where Muchová can do devastating damage. Eala's second serve tends to sit up right in the hitting zone. It just doesn't have the punch to keep returners back. Now against 90% of the tour, Eala gets away with a weaker second serve. Why? Because her footwork is incredible. Her baseline defense is world-class. She can hit a soft serve recover, instantly absorb the return, and reset the point with her speed. She can run forever, but that strategy against Karolína Muchová is pure suicide. Muchová doesn't just return and stay back. Muchová attacks the return. When she sees a weak second serve hanging in the air, her eyes light up. She doesn't wait for it. She moves 2-3 feet inside the baseline and takes that ball incredibly early before it even hits its peak bounce. She chips it low and deep to a corner, then follows it to the net like a heat-seeking missile. And just like that, in a flash, Eala is no longer in control. She's just served the ball. And on the second shot of the rally, she's already facing an opponent dominating the net, forcing her to attempt a miracle shot just to survive the point. If that pattern starts early, if Muchová chips and charges, every second serve, it will put immense psychological strain on Eala's service games. Eala will know she can't depend on her second serve. She'll press on her first serve. Her first serve percentage will plummet. Double faults will start appearing. It's a chain reaction of pressure, one that could send the young star spiraling. But make no mistake, Karolína Muchová is facing her own nightmare in this match. Her problem is massive, unavoidable, and staring her right in the face. It's a simple, brutal matter of biology. At her core, Karolína Muchová avoids long matches. Being on court for 2.5 hours is something she simply cannot afford. And if you're trying to dodge a war of attrition, Alexandra Eala is the absolute last person you want to see across the net. Eala doesn't just endure grueling, lung-searing rallies, she craves them. She makes her home in the pain cave. Burning legs and screaming lungs don't faze her. We saw this exact scenario play out against Saymond. They waged a brutal 3-hour war in the oppressive heat. And Eala's focus never wavered for a second. Her posture never broke. No panic, no heavy breathing, no hands on her knees. She was a machine. Even against Lynette after a punishing first set battle, Eala looked faster, more powerful and more explosive at the end of the match than when she started. So for Eala, the strategy is brutally simple. She has to drag Muchová into a baseline war deep into treacherous territory. If she can lock into extended 20-shot rallies, if she has the zen-like focus to avoid going for kill shots, to resist pulling the trigger early, and just relentlessly pound heavy deep balls, asking the same question again and again. If she can execute that, this stops being a game of tennis and becomes a brutal test of physical will. And that's where the long, dark shadow of Karolína Muchová's past appears. We all know the heartbreaking story of her career plagued by injury. Her own body has failed her time after time. She's spoken candidly about how punishing the tour is on her. When the match is no longer about artistry, drop shots and volleys, but about sheer survival that is a dark place Muchová cannot go. In theory then, the entire match hinges on one simple thing. It's a battle over time itself. If points are short under 5 shots, Karolína Muchová is in the driver's seat. She dictates everything. But when those points extend to 10, 15, even 20 shots, Alexandra Eala becomes the puppet master. This entire match, every single game, will be a vicious fight to dictate the duration of every point. But physicality and strategy are only 2 pieces of the puzzle. We have to look beyond the court into the mental war waged in the silence between points. Because in that arena, this is not an even fight. Karolína Muchová has been to the summit facing legends in Grand Slam finals. She knows the anatomy of a big match, the very breath of momentum. She can navigate those terrifying moments at 4, all 30, all in a final set. She knows how to slam the door shut with a lead. Alexandra Eala is still building that mental fortress, still filling that well of big match experience. But, and this is a huge, but what Eala revealed last match was a stunning evolution. Down 3-5 against a red-hot Lynette, she didn't play like a rookie. She didn't rush her serve. She didn't panic and spray wild forehands. She took a breath. She centered herself. She fell back on her game plan. She trusted her fundamentals. And then she went out and just owned the tiebreak. That isn't just talent. That isn't just a forehand. That is a massive leap in mental fortitude. That is the mark of a champion. And today, that mindset is tested by fire again, but this is a whole different kind of heat. Against Muchová, Eala isn't just fighting the score. She's fighting a relentless tactical assault. It's that agonizing feeling of being constantly pulled out of rhythm, of never finding your footing. It's the feeling your opponent is reading your mind. That mental strain is exhausting, draining your energy 10 times faster than running ever could. And finally, let's add the last explosive ingredient to this mix: the crowd. Because we are in Miami. And here in Miami, Alexandra Eala isn't just another player. She's the main event. Her support is massive and deafening. The atmosphere in that stadium will be absolutely electric. That sound, that passion, you can feel it. It's a tangible force. It's a literal force. And in a long, brutal fight, that outside energy is a game changer. Because once you hit that third hour of play, when the rallies feel like you're drowning, when easy mistakes creep in, when your legs turn to concrete from the burn, that's when a sudden roar from thousands of fans can provide a shot of adrenaline that completely flips the match on its head. It can give Eala a second wind she never knew existed. But for Karolína Muchová, it's just another wall of noise to overcome, another distraction from her delicate, precise game. So you take all the pieces: the heavy topspin, the wicked slice, the shaky second serve, the suffocating Miami heat, the history of injuries, the mental growth, and the roaring crowd. Throw all of that into the fire, and the ultimate question of this match burns crystal clear. Can Alexandra Eala stay disciplined and stubborn enough to refuse Muchová's chaotic web? Can she avoid playing her opponent's game? Or will Muchová, the grandmaster of disruption, shatter Eala's rhythm before it ever begins? Because the reality is simple. If Eala lets frustration in, if she panics, if she starts spraying the ball, if she tries to force a miracle winners off those low skidding slices, if she loses her tactical discipline for even 10 minutes, this match will be gone in a flash. On paper, Muchová dismantles her. But if Eala finds her rhythm, stays ice cold under pressure, holds her form, and drives every shot deep, denying Muchová the angles she feasts on, forcing her to hit one more ball again and again, the script slowly flips to Eala's brutal, agonizing design. The match descends into a grueling war of wills under the blistering Miami sun. And fueled by the incredible momentum that brought her here, now armed with a newfound mental toughness, this fight is infinitely closer and far more lethal than any ranking suggests. The eyes of the world are locked on this court. And the one question hanging in the air is this: can Alexandra Eala's unyielding machine-like precision outlast the creative chaos of Karolína Muchová long enough to pull her into deep water? Because if she does, if Eala is the one left standing, this isn't just another tally in the win column. This is the moment her promise becomes power. This could be the day Alexandra Eala stops being a great story and starts being the headline.